Ano yung mga bagay na mas nakakatakot pa sa multo? Pag-usapan natin yan in this new Trying Hard podcast episode. Hi, and welcome to the Trying Hard with Lyqa podcast. And if hindi pa kayo naka-follow, follow na for more conversations like this. Today is going to be kind of our Halloween special, although hindi naman siya nakakatakot in that sense kasi hindi spectacular, supernatural ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon. You know, I always tell people, maraming mas nakakatakot sa multo. And hindi ako kasing takot sa multo as I am afraid of people. Kasi sa buhay ko, hindi naman ako sinasaktan ng multo. It's usually the real people who hurt me. O, di ba? Ayan. So, yan ang mga pwedeng sagot sa susunod na tinanong kayo about ghosts or mga aswang, stuff like that. But sa totoo lang, marami naman kasi talaga mas nakakatakot kaysa dito sa mga imagery na to. Sa mga stories, sa mga movies na nauuso sa panahon na ito. And actually, there's this doctor, si Dr. Carl Albrecht, who tried to kind of summarize yung mga fears ng tao. And gumawa siya ng 5 categories or 5 klase ng fears or types ng fears, saying that all of the phobias that we have, the fears we have, the insecurities we have, fall under these 5 types. Share ko muna sa inyo and then I'll talk about yung fear that's scarier than horror stories for me. Now, sabi ni Dr. Carl Albrecht, ito daw. Number 1, type ng fear is the fear of extinction. May sabihin, ayaw nating mamatay, ayaw natin may magkasakit. Basta basically, extinction, yung mawawala ka. Okay? Number 2 na fear is mutilation or bodily invasion. Hindi ko na yun i-describe, pero basically, di ba, yung anything na papasok sa katawan natin, magkakasakit din tayo, di ba? All of these things na may mangyayaring harm sa katawan natin. Third fear is the loss of autonomy. By that, ang ibig sabihin yung losing control of one's own life, one's own body. So, kung makukulong ka, matatrap ka, pasok yung loss of autonomy na yon. Kasama rin yung kawalan ng resources for you to be able to provide for yourself. Fourth type of fear, sabi niya, is the separation, abandonment, or rejection. And I think, naiintindihan naman na natin yan lahat. So, when we lose someone, when we are separated from people, when we are rejected by people. And fear number 5 niya is humility, shame, or worthlessness. And ang tawag niya dito is ego death. Basically, it's the feeling na hindi ka mahal, hindi ka worthy, hindi ka important. Okay? Now, again, all of these 5 types of fears that he discussed, ang idea here is that every phobia out there, whether you're afraid of the dark, dogs, confinement, closed spaces, heights, or anything like that, they would fall under one of these 5 types of fears. But hindi yun ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon. Ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon is the one fear that I have, that a lot of you guys probably have, kaya kayo nandito sa podcast na ito. We're going to talk about something scarier than being bitten by a dog, I would argue. Scarier than being in a high place. Scarier than even death. And that is the one thing that I'm most afraid of, well, dati. And yung mga fears na nagpo-fall din under that banner, which is the fear of failure. Yep. And I think we talked in an earlier episode, lalo na dun sa why smart people don't try hard. We talked about the fear of failure, the fear of trying hard and failing, the fear of not just failing, but being a failure. And I have been trying to separate those two things for so long. Kasi I keep telling people, you can fail and not be a failure. You can win and not be a winner. And it's hard to reconcile yung mga bagay na yan. But we're going to talk more in depth about yung mga anak ng fear of failure. And how we can maybe reframe our brain or question these things so that fear doesn't have that much of a power over us. Kasi the thing with fear is when you are triggered And when you are scared, you tend to lose control over your thoughts, your actions. Nawawalan tayo ng kakayahan to think logically. And we enter this panic stage or panic state ng fight or flight. Nasisiksik tayo doon sa feeling ng kakulangan. So nawawala rin yung growth mindset natin or yung wealth mindset natin. Nalilimit tayo when we're afraid. And remember when we had an episode about are you motivated by fear or love? So pasok pa rin lahat ng mga yon conversation na yun dito. But right now, again, challenging yung types of fears ni Dr. Carl Albrecht. I'm going to talk about 5 types din ng fears that I am or was or will be at some point afraid of. So under fear of failure, let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about the fear of the unknown. I find that a lot of people are afraid of failure, not because of yung sigurado ng mangyayari after you fail, but they are afraid of failure because it adds an element of the unknown. Anong mangyayari sa akin kung mawawala tong scholarship ko? Anong mangyayari sa akin kung itong project na to hindi ko magagawa ng maigi? Anong mangyayari sa akin kapag nag-fail ako, hindi ko na alam kung sino ako? And that fear of the unknown really took up a lot of mental energy and emotional energy from me, lalo na as a young kid. I remember when we were in high school, meron kaming substitute teacher sa lit class. And meron kaming story na pinag-usapan at that time. So we were breaking down, I think it was The Lord of the Flies, kung hindi ako nagkakamali. And during the conversation about The Lord of the Flies, he asked, kasi gano'n naman usually, di ba yung conversation sa lit nung bata pa tayo, laging may prescribed din na answer. And he asked the class, ano yung theme nung book? Ano yung fear, greatest fear na napakita dun sa source of fear dun sa book? Greatest source of fear nung boys dun sa island. And when I answered the question, I framed it this way. I saw that the greatest fear that the kids in the island had was the same fear, the same primal fear that we all have, which is the reason why Sadako was very scary. Kung kilala niyo si Sadako sa Ring series, whether it's the US version or the original version, the idea there is that si Sadako kasi hindi naman nagpakita, di ba? Until the very end. And most horror movies are like that. Binibuild up yung sense of fear, pero hindi mo nakikita yung monster. Hindi mo nakikita yung nakakatakot na entity. Sa dulo mo na siya makikita. And mas nakakatakot kapag hindi mo alam kung ano itsura niya. Ang pinakita doon sa movie na yun ay yung effect niya, yung people who were dying, pero hindi siya pinakita agad. And then I told the teacher, it's really the fear of the unknown. Diba? Ano nang mangyayari? Ano nang mangyayari sa kanila? And I remember looking at him, and him looking at me, pero nung umpisa, parang, ano ba to? Pero eventually, parang it turned into a type of fascination. Kasi again, substitute teacher siya, hindi naman siya yung totoong teacher namin noong time na yon. And then, basta pinaupo niya ako after. Tapos na yun, meron siyang half smile. And that teacher, honestly, is someone who's quite hard to please. I don't know if he understood what I was trying to say. Hindi naman yata maganda yung pagkaka-explain ko. Pero at the very least, I remember that time. Kasi even as a kid, I was already afraid of the unknown. Yung possibilities ng buhay kasi masyadong marami. Na hindi natin alam minsan kung ano yung posible talagang mangyari. And it's the not knowing that makes us really, really hold on to certain fears. Kasi kung alam mo yung mangyayari, di ba, medyo assured ka na. Medyo sigurado na yung gagawin mo. Okay, pag bumagsak ako, ito lang gagawin ko, babawi ako next time. Pero yung mga times na hindi natin alam kung ano talaga yung posibleng mangyari, doon napapasok yung faith eh. Doon napapasok yung confidence, doon napapasok yung mindset na hindi, pwede kang mag-try again. And a lot of us, wala tayo nun. Lalo na kung hindi tayo lumaki sa isang household na assured na when we fail, okay lang. Na when we fail, okay pa rin. Which leads us to the second na sabihin natin, ebidensya ng fear of failure. Or second na totoong reason kung bakit takot na takot tayo mag-fail. Which is the fear of abandonment. Medyo related dun kay Dr. Albrecht na humiliation, shame, and worthlessness, and yung separation, abandonment, and rejection. Kaya lang kasi sa kanya, dalawang magkahiwalay na bagay yun. Sa akin, ang fear of abandonment really is more about both. Yung feeling na worthless ka, and also yung pang-iwan sa'yo ng mga tao. Kasi sa akin, parang inextricable yun eh. Minsan, hindi mo mahiwalay na kaya mo feel na worthless ka, kaya mo feeling na napahiya ka. Hindi naman yun innate sa tao, but I believe cultivated siya. And it's because of rejection and separation and yung kawalan ng pagtanggap sa'yo kapag nag-feel ka, kaya ka nakaka-develop ng shame tsaka ng feelings ng inadequacy. And so I just put it under one banner, yung fear of abandonment. I think lahat tayo takot mag-fail kasi takot tayo ma-abandon. Takot tayo na hindi na tayo mahalin, hindi na tayo tanggapin, respetuhin ng mga tao around us. We are afraid of failure not because we don't want to fail lang, but because we know that some people may look at us differently or may not even look at us at all. And I remember as a kid na sobrang takot ako dito. Parang pag ginawa ko ba to or pag hindi ko to ginawa ng maigi, mamahalin pa rin ba ako? Like, or ikakahiya ako. Ano yung mga matatanggap kong words if I don't do well? And that feeling na parang at any time people could and would throw you out, it creates a deep sense ng fear. Kaya tayo takot mag-fail or even mag-try. Kaya tayo takot mag-try kasi takot tayo mag-fail, kasi takot tayo na kapag nag-fail tayo, may mga taong iiwan tayo. And even as an adult, malaki na ako, no? Matanda na ako. Pero meron pa rin ako laging sense ng paranoia doon. Na sometimes I would even have to ask that question from the people around me, from my friends, from my sister, no? Yung lalo na yung bunso namin na parang okay lang ba? Love mo pa rin ba ako? Because of that deep seated na fear of abandonment for me. Which is funny kasi I always saw myself as an independent person din. Pero ganun talaga yung life is very ironic and marami talagang mga paradoxical things in life that it's the people usually who are seen as strong and independent who are in fact trying to keep themselves together kasi takot sila mag-isa. So if you're one of those people, I feel like we need to talk about this so that at the very least you feel a little bit less lonely sa struggle na yan. We have 3 more fears to talk about. 3 more very important fears. And the last one is actually my favorite. But before we do that, let's take a quick break.
I haven't been posting a lot of videos lately, and here's why. This is the official planner para sa mga tryhards. I created this planner with one goal, which is to make a planner that's good enough for you to destroy. Anong ibig sabihin ko dyan? Alam ko yung feeling na bagong-bago yung planner mo, mabango pa, at dahil ang ganda-ganda niya, parang ayaw mong sulatan. Kaya I wanted something na pagkahawak ninyo, gustong-gusto nyo ng simulan na sulatan kahit pangit ang handwriting mo o wala kang maisulat. This planner is undated, parang ikaw. Which means you can start using it or stop using it whenever. Hanggat may space pa siya. This planner may also be the best worst-looking planner you'll ever get. Anong ibig sabihin ko dyan? This planner comes with its own ink stains, coffee stains, doodles, at kung ano-ano pa, para hindi ka ma-threaten. Kasi nga, di ba, mabuti nang magulo yung planner pero maayos yung buhay, kesa maayos yung planner pero magulo yung buhay. Now, paano naman yung mga walang plano? Pwede rin to sa'yo. It includes its own set of activities para matulungan ka to find kahit one goal lang for this next year. So that's it. This is the I don't just try, I try hard planner for tryhards like me. And whether you're using this planner, another type of planner, old pages from old notebooks, or printouts like I did before, what matters most is not the planner itself, but how you use it. Use it well.
Get yours today by messaging the Lyqa Maravilla Facebook page.
All right, welcome back to the Trying Hard with Lyqa podcast. We already talked about the fear of the unknown and the fear of abandonment. We have 3 more fears to go. And the next one is going to be the fear of pain. Now, I know abandonment can be a type of emotional pain. But when it comes to pain, honestly, kaya ko siya hiniwalay kasi iba yung pain as a consequence sa fear of pain as a consequence even before you start. Marami talagang tao na, alam niyo yun, ayaw magmahal kasi takot masaktan. Ayaw sumubok kasi takot masaktan. Tapos, ang nakaka-fascinate doon is this. I've learned in my life that pain is actually more bearable when you're going through it and mas malaking torture yung anticipation of pain. May times sa buhay ko na yung takot na takot ako. Tapos pag ginagamot na yung sugat, parang, okay naman pala. Kaya ko naman pala. And I wanted to talk about the fear of pain kasi I just want to emphasize na sa dami ng sakit siguro, emotional, physical, that I went through in life, usually yung anticipation, yung kinakabahan ka dun sa sakit, mas mahirap siya kaysa yung tanggapin mo na lang yung sakit. So sa akin, believe in yourself kasi kaya mo. Like, yung pain, emotional pain, physical pain na yan. Sometimes it feels like I'm too weak for this, hindi ko to kaya, pero ang pain lumilipas siya. If anything, when you accept that pain is part of life, mas nagiging madali lahat. And mas nagiging, if you think about it, appreciative din tayo of the times na walang pain. So yun, that's the third one, the fear of pain. We fear failure because we are afraid that masasaktan tayo. Pero kaya niyan, matibay tayo. Mas matibay tayo than you think. Now, the fourth fear is the fear of lack. Ano ibig sabihin ko dito? Maraming tao ang takot mag-fail kasi takot silang magkulang. Magkulang ng mga bagay na magkakaroon. Diba? Takot ka mag-fail sa work kasi baka mawalan ka ng sweldo, mawalan ka ng promotion, mawalan ka ng bonus. Pero takot din tayo mag-fail kasi takot tayo mapatunayan na kulang tayo. And yung kakulangan na yun, it nags at you. You know, as someone who really tries to be excellent sa mga bagay, this is one of the things that I still am very, very afraid of. That magkukulang ako. Magkukulang ako bilang coach ninyo, magkukulang ako bilang tao, magkukulang ako bilang kapatid, bilang anak. All of these things, sobrang, actually even just talking about it, medyo parang ina-acid na yata ako. Takot ako magkulang. And siguro, galing din siya sa mindset na kasi I always try. Not just to be good, but to be great. Di ba, sabi ko nga nung earlier episode, na kapag dati kang sobra, kung babawasan mo, sakto pa rin yun. Hindi ka pa rin nagkukulang. Pero sinasabi ko yun sa inyo, and sinasabi ko rin sa sarili ko nung time na yun. Kasi ganun ako eh. Parang feeling ko kapag hindi sobra, kulang siya. Which is wrong. Kailangan lang natin na habulin yung sapat. But the sad part is, meron talagang circles in our lives. Merong mga people out there who would make you feel like kulang ka all the time. And I'll use this example but this has been like so long na ago, and emphasize ko lang whenever I use examples, lalo na kung emotional siya, it doesn't mean I haven't forgiven these people or I haven't moved on. We use them as examples for us to learn dito sa podcast na ito. But I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in a household na prevalent yung, hindi naman to uncommon, meron naman din ako mga nakita na ganito rin. Pero yung, kaya nag-uwi ka ng grade na 98, di ba? O bakit Bakit 98 to? Bakit dalawa na lang sana? Perfect na, 'di ba? Kahit na sabihin mo na, ay highest na po 'yan sa class, kulang pa rin. Parang, oh, pero 'di ba kung kaya namang i-perfect, bakit hindi? And even if mag-uwi ka ng perfect score, sasabihin pa rin parang, bakit dito ka lang perfect? Bakit sa science hindi ka perfect? Sana kung kaya mo naman pala i-perfect, bakit hindi mo pa pinrefect lahat? And I know, again, well-meaning yung mga words na ganito. Well-meaning yung words na yon na parang sinasabi, siguro sa utak nila, ang sinasabi nila is, I believe in you, you can do it, ganun. Pero iba yung translation niya kapag sinabi na. At iba rin yung pagtanggap mo as a kid. Ang translation nun sa akin is not, I believe in you. By saying na, bakit hindi mo pinerfect or bakit hindi lahat perfect? Ang translation nun sa akin is, even after doing my very best, even after being the very best doon sa klase, arguably doon sa school, di ba? Kulang pa rin. Lagi ka pa rin kulang. And that created something in me, even as a young kid, na yung feeling na lagi kang kulang. Now, of course, one could argue na yun yung dahilan kung bakit I ended up as someone who tries hard, who wants to do good things, wants to be excellent. Pero pwede namang hindi yun necessary, di ba? Pwede ka namang ma-motivate na maging mahusay. Hindi dahil kulang ka kapag hindi ka perfect. Pero dahil masarap subukan na maging perfect. So, galing na siya sa negative na place instead of a positive place. And I'm sharing this with you kasi I want you to struggle with this too. If you came from a similar household or a similar environment na parang lagi kang kulang kahit na binigay mo na yung lahat ng meron ka, I want you to understand that that belief isn't something that you need to hold on to for the rest of your life. You can struggle with it, as I am struggling with it. Pero more and more honestly, over the years, as I've grown, natutuhan ko na to wrestle with myself whenever those thoughts come. Pag sinabi ng utak ko, kasi di ba naririnig ko pa rin may echoes pa rin from the past ng mga sinasabi sa akin na, ano ba yan, kulang naman. Kaya mo naman palang 2 videos a week sa YouTube dati, bakit kayo hindi? Kaya mo palang everyday sa TikTok, bakit hindi? Kulang na kulang ka pa rin. Whenever I have thoughts like that, na kulang ako, I just try to wrestle with it. I just tell myself, totoo ba to? Totoo ba itong naririnig ko na to? Or galing to sa ibang tao from my distant past? And do I still need to hold on to this? Or sasabihin ko na lang na, okay, but nandito pa naman ako, bawi na lang next time. And it hasn't been easy, but it gets easier over time. So keep trying. Okay? So that's the 4th one, the fear of lack. The 5th one is the fear of fear. This is actually my favorite. Sometimes we are afraid of failure kasi takot na tayong matakot. So, sobrang takot natin dun sa unang 4 kung na-experience man natin ang any of those things in our lives. Even yung fear, takot na tayo sa fear itself. Takot na tayong matakot. Takot na tayong matakot kasi kapag natakot tayo sa failure, may possibility ng not knowing things, may possibility ng abandonment, may possibility ng pain, may possibility ng lack. And yung feeling na yon ng takot, ayaw na rin natin ng feeling ng takot na yon. Kaya ni hindi ka magsusubok or ni hindi ka mag-come out of your shell. Ni hindi ka gagawa ng anything new. I have this phrase I use, which is, I don't want to rock the boat. Like, let's not rock the boat. I always say that, don't rock the boat, don't rock the boat. Kasi for a long time in my life, yun yung mantra ko sa buhay. Para hindi ka mapansin, para hindi ka madamay sa conversation, para hindi ka biglang ikaw yung masama, huwag ka magko-comment. Like, don't rock the boat, don't say anything. Tanggapin mo na lang. And I've sat in so many conversations, so many dinner tables na ganon, na parang please tapusin nyo na to. Tapos wag nyo akong titingnan, wag nyo akong makikita, wag nyo akong papansinin. Kung pwede kang kumain ng hindi tumutunog yung kubyertos mo gagawin mo para hindi ka madamay, para hindi ka masabihin na ikaw, ganyan. Isa ka pa, mga ganun. And so I'm always afraid. And I'm afraid of that fear that I don't even put myself in those situations anymore. So yun, that's the fear of fear. Ayaw na lang natin na may magbago. Pero hindi kasi pwedeng ganun lagi eh. Hindi ganun ang buhay. If we keep being afraid of fear itself, if we keep being afraid of the unknown, of abandonment, of fear, of lack, wala rin tayong tatanggaping opportunities sa life. One thing that has kept me going, and sometimes people would ask me, Coach, if you feel like we do, may social anxiety ka rin, nagsastruggle ka rin with thoughts of, failing. Nahihirapan ka rin sa mga bagay na to. That we've talked about, di ba, sa 100 plus episodes here sa Trying Hard podcast and sa dami ng mga videos that I've made over the years. Bakit nagpapatuloy ka pa rin? Bakit, ayaw mo pala, natatakot ka pala, ba't nandyan ka pa rin? But, yun yung challenge natin dito sa Trying Hard eh. I don't want your fear of failure or your feel of failing actually keep you from being who you are. I don't want your fear of failing after you try actually turn you into a failure. Like I said at the beginning, I've said so many times, failing doesn't make you a failure. Pero ano yung failure? I defined my own failure like this. And I redefined it. Sa akin, ang failure or failing is just circumstantial. Dito sa bagay na to, sa project na to, I didn't do that well. Dito sa hosting na to, kinabahan ako, so dinaga ako doon. Medyo nabulol tayo, very light. Those are small failures in life. But again, they don't make me a failure. Kasi sa akin, I chose to define being a failure as this. I would consider myself a failure if I didn't live up to my potential. I would consider myself as a failure if I didn't even try. I consider myself as a failure if I pretended to be someone I'm not. I consider myself a failure if I lied to people and told them that I was perfect. I would be a failure if I didn't do certain things just because someone told me not to. I'm a failure if I didn't do certain things just because I told myself na I couldn't. And because na-reframe ko yung definition of who I would be as a failure, ito na yung mga characteristics ng taong failure na para sa akin, na ayokong maging, my fear of failure suddenly became the less scary route. I hope medyo klaro yun, yung pagkaka-explain ko sa inyo. But the idea here is, if may takeaway kayo dito, it's this. I want you to define a person who is a failure para sa'yo. The person you would never ever want to become. Ayaw mo maging katulad nitong tao na to. It doesn't need to be a real person. It could be a Frankenstein of different people that you don't want to be like. Diba lagi ko sinasabi sa inyo, everything is a learning experience. From the good, you learn what to do. From the bad, you learn what not to do. So, kunin niyo lahat ng what you don't want to do. Okay? Yung who you don't want to be. Pagsama-samahin niyo sila into one person. And then that becomes your definition of a person who is a failure. And because that person would be someone who is deathly afraid of failing and trying, now trying and failing becomes better. It becomes a more, attractive or less scary path to take. Honestly, I am trying to work on a workshop to eventually lead you through this journey. But that's one of the secrets that I have that I don't think I've shared with you in this much detail yet. Don't be afraid of failing. Be afraid of being that failure. Being a failure by your definition. Kasi sa akin, sa totoo lang, marami akong mga takot na hindi masyadong nakakatakot kung iisipin ko na mas nakakatakot kung ano yung gagawin ko, kung ano yung magiging ako kapag hindi ko sila sinubukan. To sum it all up, ano yung fear na mas nakakatakot pa kaysa sa multo? It's the fear of failure. And it could be a fear of the unknown, fear of abandonment, fear of pain, fear of lack, and a fear of fear itself. But that fear of failure shouldn't be more scary than the fear of being a failure. And you get to define that. You get to describe kung ano yung worst that you could ever be. And what I figured out, common theme naman siguro for all of us, na nakakatakot to not be a person who tries hard. Kaya kayo nandito. So yan, medyo mahirap yung conversation natin. Medyo mahaba, medyo mabigat, malalim. But I'm hoping that you learned a thing or two from this. If you want more conversations like this, if you want to share your thoughts, go ahead and do that sa interaction natin or dun sa ating Trying Hard Podcast community on Facebook. If you're not following the podcast yet, go ahead and do that. Tatry pa nating himay-himayin ang mga bagay na ito over time. Thank you for joining me sa mahigit 100 episodes natin dito. I'll try to really be as open and vulnerable and honest with you even as we reach for the next 100 episodes. And maraming salamat sa inyong lahat who share this podcast with your friends, hoping na sana maintindihan nila tayo at maintindihan din nila yung sarili nila through this conversation. Thank you, everyone. As we always say, dream big, work hard, start now. And don't let people calling you a tryhard keep you from trying at all. Kaya niyan. I'll talk to you next time.